I always say that if I see a moment happen through the camera, if I see it happen through the viewfinder, it means I didn't get it. Because if I had gotten it, the shutter would have clicked.
Hey everyone, you're tuned into the Founder Hour. I'm your co-host Pat, and in episode 43, Posh and I had an epic conversation with legendary sports photographer and NBA Hall of Famer, Andrew Bernstein. Andrew has taken some of the most iconic photos the sports world has ever seen. If you're curious as to which ones, just search his name on Google and you'll see. We sat down with Andy to learn about his story of growing up in Brooklyn, how a trip to the national parks with his dad sparked his interest in photography, how he caught his first big break, and what it's been like working with NBA greats such as Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and Magic Johnson. We also talk about his fondest memories, what goes into being a successful photographer and the preparation behind it, and his 20-plus year relationship with Kobe leading up to their new book together, The Mamba Mentality, How I Play, which was released on October 23rd. Showtime.
Well, everyone, welcome to the Founder Hour podcast. This is your co-host, Posh, and I'm here with Pat. And we're lucky to be with our guest for today, Andrew Bernstein. So, Andrew, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show and inviting us to your office.
Hey, guys, it's great to have you guys here. Thank you for coming on a busy day.
Absolutely. And do you go by Andy or Andrew?
Andy, unless we're related.
Okay.
So I don't think we're related. You can call me Andrew.
Who knows? Who knows?
You never know these days.
At the end of this podcast, we might find out.
Right.
And for those that haven't heard of Andy Bernstein, Andy is a legendary Hall of Fame photographer. And if you haven't heard of him, I can almost guarantee my life savings that you've seen at least one of his art, like one of his photos, whether you are or are not a sport fan. Mm-hmm. And we'll post it on our social media channels for you guys to realize who this man really is, especially if you're a Lakers fan. So you definitely know who he is and his work. So, Andy, just to kind of start off, I know you mentioned New York before we started the podcast. Were you born in New York?
I was born and bred Brooklyn, New York. That's right. My family were lifelong Brooklyn Dodger fans. I actually grew up a Rangers fan, hockey fan. Mm-hmm. I ended up, graduating high school and then going to University of Massachusetts in Amherst, where all my friends were Boston sports fans. So that was a challenge, to say the least. But luckily, I didn't have an American League affiliation at all because I was prevented from having any Yankee baseball cards. Mention the word Yankees. They hated the Yankees where I grew up. Okay. So I became a Red Sox fan. So super excited about the Red Sox this year.
Yeah. I was born in LA, but I have one team that's from Boston, and that's the Patriots.
Oh, yeah.
And I've liked them for years, 98, 99.
Boston has that effect on people. It's just, you don't have to be from Boston. To be a Boston fan.
It's because I think that their fans are just so hardcore and so passionate that it's contagious. It's contagious.
It is. I became a Patriots fan, too. I didn't have any affiliation to either the Giants or the Jets growing up, and went to Foxborough a few times with my friends. Amazing. And this is the Steve Grogan era, back in when they like won 2 games or something. So, but it was a lot of fun, and it was crazy. What a crazy atmosphere in Foxborough those days.
And it's only been getting better and better, obviously.
Yeah.
That dynasty hopefully it looks like it's going to end soon, but
well, Brady's like 50-something now, right?
Yeah, he's like 42, but I mean, like he eats
seems like it.
He eats avocado ice cream, and
and he's married to Giselle. So I mean, I could be played if I was married to Giselle.
Exactly. I can imagine this guy playing. He's like 60 years old, just like balding, like me, like at 60, and he's just throwing like just balls all day, and just I wouldn't be surprised. Andy, I wanted to tell you the story of how this even happened, like us being in this room. So like I had mentioned before, we've been doing this for almost a year now, and we've been hustling, Pat and I, to meet with people in LA, and our whole thing is to meet people that are founders and creators and just visionaries in LA, and obviously you fit that mold perfectly. And we've been emailing back and forth with everyone, anybody that you could think of. We've emailed, and so obviously Pat and I are big Lakers fans, and so I was like, we got to interview Kobe, but not because of his basketball career. I wanted to interview Kobe because of kind of the accolades and all the stuff that he's done after, and just how his mindset during his NBA career, and that's obviously something that we'll be discussing in this book, Mamba Mentality. and how that's kind of impacted him now. And so I've reached out to him several times, and finally I saw him tweet a picture of him being on the Ellen show, and it was that wizard outfit.
Yeah, right.
And I think he was promoting the book, The Mamba Mentality.
Right.
And so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna give it one more shot. So I sent him an email. I was like, "Hey, Kobe, happy Friday! Just saw that tweet with the Ellen costume. You look great. Would love to would love to sit down with you. Are you down?"
Yeah.
Long story short, he didn't respond. But his PR team from Rogers and Cohen did, and a couple days after, your PR team from Rogers and Cohen also hit us up saying, "Hey, I know you guys hit up Kobe, but we'd love for you guys to also sit down, with Andy." And so we're like, as soon as Pat and I saw that, we read that email, we're like, this is a no-brainer.
Awesome.
Wow. So that's how we came to be.
Yeah.
And I'm excited. Shout out to your team there. Shay specifically was the one that reached out.
Yep.
So when did you make the move to LA?
Oh, well, I came to LA during the blizzard of '78. It was literally called the blizzard of '78 in Boston. Yeah. I moved here in that winter and landed in LA. It was 84 degrees. I'll never forget it. And I said, I'll never, that was a one-way ticket. I'm never going back.
Yeah.
I came out to finish school. I actually went 2.5 years at University of Massachusetts, then got accepted to Art Center College of Design, which is a really prestigious.
In Pasadena?
Yeah. Commercial art, photography, design, car design, environmental, all kinds of stuff. So I got accepted there, and while I was there, I started working as an assistant for one of my teachers, who introduced me to some Sports Illustrated photographers, and that's where I really, I'm a street guy from New York, so I got my sort of book training, my lab training, my classroom training at Art Center, but I got my street training, like my arena, hit the ground training, working for these guys, and I learned a very specialized technique of lighting indoor arenas with these big strobe lights, which only Sports Illustrated was doing at the time. But I kind of parlayed that into getting my foot in the door in the Forum with the Kings and Lakers, and then with the NBA. That was early 80s, and I was in the right place at the right time.
And so did you go to Art Center? I mean, were you studying photography there? Or
Yeah.
You saw they had a photography
Oh,
program?
yeah. No, actually, their photography program has the most students in it.
Okay.
I mean, the school has like around 1,200 or so students, maybe 1,500. The photography department has over 300, and it's a huge department.
And why photography? Like, what got you into it in the first place?
Oh, that's a great question, Pat. When I was 14, my dad and I made a trip out to the western states to go to all the national parks, and it was a 2-week trip, just father and son. And my dad was a doctor, but he thought he was, an amateur photographer, or even better than an amateur photographer. So he bought me a camera, and he was going to teach me how to take pictures with it. And I had no interest in photography whatsoever until I got that camera. But it was an old
what camera it was?
Yeah, it was an old clunker, and it was a Canon TL camera. All, of course, manual, everything, and film. And it is a great story about this. So in those days, you would buy Kodachrome film, slide film, and with the roll of film, you got a mailer, like an actual mailer. That you stuck once you shot the film, you stuck it in the mailer. Wherever you are in the United States, it was prepaid.
Yeah.
The film went back to Rochester, to their lab, Kodak, and then they would process the film and send you the actual slides to your house.
Okay.
It was great.
Yeah.
So. And they would come in these rectangular yellow boxes. So, we're in Yellowstone, we're in Yosemite, we're in Grand Teton, Grand Canyon, wherever we were, we're shooting film. And my dad would put his film in his mailer, and I'd put my film in my mailer, and end up in Rochester. When we got home, there's like 50 of these boxes sitting there at home. And my mother was like, what the heck is, And so we start going through these rolls of film. And my dad, is like, oh, this picture of Mount Rainier is unbelievable. And look at this one of Old Faithful and, Half Dome. And I'm like, well, hold on, Dad. Hold on. Let me take a look at that roll. And he gives me the roll. And I'm looking through the slides. And then there's pictures of him in those slides. So I'm like, Dad, these are my pictures, not your pictures. So he's like, kid, you got some talent. You should stick with it. And that's where I caught the bug. And I had a good friend in high school who was a photography buff, and he had a dark room in his basement. And to see like the photo come up in the paper in the solution, the print, it was truly magical.
Yeah.
And I miss that today, but that's kind of how I got started.
And then I know you said you were a sports fan growing up. Did you see that intersection like being something you wanted to go into, like this intersection of sports and photography, or did it just kind of happen that way when you moved to LA? And
Well, I was always the shortest kid on the block, but I loved playing sports. I loved playing, we played stickball, we played street hockey, we played tackle football in the snow, anything we could do in the playground or on the street. And I just love sports. I came from a sports family. My family were crazy Dodger fans, back in the day. And of course, I was a hockey fan. And so it was a great marriage of the two passions, sports, which I could never play. I didn't be on a varsity team or anything, but I loved being around the game. And also photography. And then the third part of that was a great bonding thing for my dad and I. We bonded over photography at the onset, but also over sports. So when I started traveling, shooting fights, shooting NBA events, international stuff, dream team, baseball, whatever it was, I would bring my dad with me. And it was, a fantastic father-son experience for a long time. I mean, until he died, he traveled with me, 3-4 trips a year.
Wow.
And I'm sure for him, it was like, not only proud that his son was doing this, but he was probably just so excited as a dude, just like going to all these
He got a
games
credential, he didn't have to pay for a ticket.
Yeah.
It was great.
Hang around your neck like the best pastime.
Yeah, and I made him carry my bags, but he didn't care.
My son better be, my son better be a photographer. So kind of just taking it back though, Andy, how did you catch your first break? A lot of people are photographers. A lot of people want to, be photographers for sports teams, but not a lot of people catch that break of actually getting that opportunity. How did that happen?
Well, I kind of helped it make it happen, a little bit unknowingly, but also there was a plan there.
Right. It's like looking back, the dots kind of make sense.
Yeah.
like
Well,
Steve Jobs said.
when I was assisting and I learned this specialized technique, I knew that the photographs that I would be able to produce using this strobe technique would be better than anyone else could get not using the strobes. Because, keep in mind, this is pre-digital, really badly lit arenas. The film was not sensitive enough to really capture the action well enough. You'd have to really basically only shoot in black and white. So color was almost unheard of, or it was just, grainy and yucky looking. So I was able to, again, get my foot in the door at the Forum. The Kings and the Laker people and the Forum people really liked me. And I was very careful not to tread on their longtime house photographer, a guy named Wen Roberts. That was his gig, but I used it to my advantage. And then the actual big break happened when the NBA decided to have their All-Star game in LA in '83. And the PR director of the Lakers at that time, who I'd become friends with, suggested I go to New York and meet with somebody at the NBA who would be in the position of hiring a photographer for the NBA All-Star game, which was a game, was not a weekend. It was a game on Sunday afternoon at 12:30. So I went back to New York for the holidays, as I remember, and I had my little portfolio, and I went to meet with this gentleman named Porter McKinnon. And he said, well, so let me understand something. You're local in LA, so we don't have to travel you. There's no expenses. We have like $200 or something for like the whole thing, and you'll do it? And I said, yeah, I'll do it. So I said, okay, you're hired.
You were like convenient for them.
Yeah. So the next thing I know, I'm standing in center court. Both teams are out there for the anthem, and I'm going to ask you guys, because you probably know this, who comes out to sing the most iconic national anthem in the history of national anthems? Oh, wow. 1983 NBA All-Star Game.
That's 9 years before I was born.
Okay. Marvin Gaye, and you guys and everybody out there needs to look it up, because it was literally voted the most iconic rendition of the national
I've
anthem.
never heard of that.
It was 5.5 minutes long.
Wow.
He riffed on it, and
but it was good.
Oh, it's unbelievable! It's legendary. I mean, and that's how I broke into the NBA. I'm standing there, the guys start bopping around after about 3 minutes, And
I mean, are you nervous at this point?
I was kind of a little bit nervous. Yeah, I got to say I was nervous. no one was giving me any direction, so I just figured I would just wing it,
Yeah.
And again, it was just the game then. But I do remember I did have to do a team picture, which was interesting. And I was working around people I knew well from the forum, so we all kind of looked after each other. And I made friends with some NBA people who are friends today, 40 years later, who I worked very, very, very closely with in those early days.
So you said like no one was really giving you direction, and here you are like this brand new photographer, and you're just kind of getting into it and learning the ropes. How did you figure out how it worked? Like, was it just kind of, hey, go figure out yourself, get your angles, whatever you want to do, or was there some sort of system in place?
Well, I've been to so many games as an assistant and seen how those photographers treated their assignments, and I had a little bit of an idea of what the rundown would be for the All-Star game, and I was given really carte blanche access. I was able to go in the locker room. I was able to be in the huddles. I was, getting the guys, whatever they were doing on and off the court, arriving and leaving, press conference. So I kind of had an idea of what was expected of me, and it was fun. I mean, it was an incredible way to break into the NBA.
Were you ever starstruck by some of these folks that you were around?
No, I honestly never. I was always in awe of them, but not starstruck. I mean, there's a difference because
Right.
I'm very much in awe of what unbelievable athletes these guys are. I mean,
And you've worked with like
all
the
of them.
best
Yeah.
of the best.
Yeah, I mean, it could be Magic, could be Kareem, Kobe, James Worthy,
Right.
in basketball, of course, Michael Jordan. Now we got the new generation with LeBron and Durant, Curry, and all these guys, just incredible athletes.
Right.
And, if we go to other sports, Oral Hershiser, the most, probably underrated Dodger great of all time.
Yeah.
Who would ever thought that this guy, the way he looked like a librarian. Tommy called him the Bulldog, who would have this amazing streak of 59 innings. And then of course lead the team to the '88 championship. Boxers, tennis. I've been around all different sports. I was lucky enough to photograph Michael Phelps. I mean, these guys are just like superhuman.
Right.
Yeah, but never starstruck, but always in awe, always incredibly respectful, and understanding that they are where they are because they worked hard to get there.
And so you've had this amazing 30+ year career. Tell us like one moment that really like you remember, like that's the best moment of your life that really sticks out if you had to choose.
Well, I'll tell you one assignment. If I could have retired after being embedded with the Dream Team for 7 weeks,
This is 92?
This is the '92 Dream Team. I was with them from day one of training camp in San Diego, through the Tournament of the Americas in Portland, to Monaco, to Barcelona, and the gold medal, and that was 7 total weeks. So that nothing will ever compare to that. I think second to that is probably being on the inside with Kobe for his entire 20-year career, which was the genesis and the result being the Mamba Mentality book. There have been some amazing moments. If you want an actual moment, Kirk Gibson's home run, the '88 World Series. That's my picture of him hitting the home run.
Fuck.
Yeah.
And when you're in those moments, like, I mean, looking back, like,
Yeah.
did you actually feel like it was like the dream team? Like it was going to be
Oh, yeah.
like
Yeah.
a legendary team forever?
Yeah, I mean,
you felt it.
Yeah. These guys. I
knew
mean,
it.
But why? What made them that good?
well, I mean, first of all, they were the top of the NBA. I mean, it wasn't like anybody was missing, And then it was the first time ever NBA players were assembled to represent the United States in the Olympic team. So it was very historic. And then once we got to Barcelona, they were destroying opponents. I mean, I don't think they lost the game by less than 40 points. So it was a very monumental moment in time that I was very fortunate to be part of.
And I'm sitting across from the '92 USA basketball team photo.
Yeah.
Were you the one that took that team
I took
shot?
probably half of those.
Okay.
The other half was shot by my good friend Nat Butler, who's kind of my alter ego on the East Coast. And we kind of split that up. And that was the early days of kind of Photoshop. It wasn't even Photoshop, but whatever it was called, where they would put these guys together in a chorus line poster. Yeah.
Andy, the one thing I'm curious about is throughout now, kind of looking back at your career, did you ever think when you were younger, when you first picked up that camera, that this was possible?
No, but I didn't. And I did have a aha moment, though, about photography as a career.
At what point?
Well, because I came out the summer of 77 was my, after my sophomore year at UMass, I came out to stay in LA with my sister. And she was filming a movie. She's an actress. So I was going to the set with her every day. And I was bringing my camera with me. And the unit photographer, the on-set photographer, who was there every single day. Incredible guy named Alan Pape, who's passed away, but he was probably one of the greatest in the history of Hollywood. He was, took me under his wing, and he was there every day, and I'd bring pictures, and I'd go back into a rental darkroom and develop them and bring them to him. And he said after, 5 or 6 times of doing this, he told my sister, he said, your brother's got some talent here. Maybe it would be worthwhile if he's going to be here for the rest of the summer that he take a class. And there's a school called Art Center College of Design. They have a night class that it's an introduction to photography class. Maybe, you guys can go up and check it out. So on an off day, my sister and I went up, and it was super cool campus. And I found out about the class, and I enrolled in it. I remember it was a Wednesday night class. And the first class, I remember I got in the car to drive back to her apartment in Hollywood, coming down onto Sunset Boulevard. And as you guys know, there's, a million billboards, and most of them have photos on them, and advertising, whatever. It's the first time ever I looked up and I said, there's a photograph on that billboard that somebody must have taken, or had to have taken, obviously. And therefore, there's like a business, like a career.
There's like money to be made here.
It's like, it's not just screwing around with a camera.
Right.
Like there's actually a career you could make.
Right.
I mean, I had never put 2 and 2 together.
Right.
But it's crazy. Like, did you think back then, like, obviously, now looking back, all these moments that you've captured really tell the whole story of history. Like, you wouldn't know those moments unless you saw, there's video too, but at the same time, like, there's something about capturing like one moment that just brings back all those memories.
Well,
did you know it was that powerful?
I'm really fortunate to be part of, especially in the NBA, the incredible moment in time that the NBA experienced during Showtime, Jordan era, Shaq and Kobe. I mean, these 35 plus years, I don't think the league will ever see that again. They're building on that now, but so to be able to have my photographs be part of the visual history of the league is extremely gratifying and very humbling. Appreciate you mentioning that. But after this Hall of Fame thing that happened last month, Adam Silver said to me, he congratulated me, of course.
And you're the second ever to. It's the Kurt Gowdy Award, right?
The Kurt Gowdy Award for media in the print category.
And you're the second photographer.
Photographer, first NBA centric photographer. And Adam said, I think your best pictures are in front of you. So I'm like, okay, I'll take that as a challenge. Thank you very much. So that made me feel invigorated going into this season.
I mean, if that's the case, then shit.
Yeah.
That's because you go on your website or you go on your Instagram or anything. I mean, for me, my favorite. So once we realized, we know who Andy Bernstein and we know his photographs. And we were sitting down in Pat's garage, and his dad came, and he's like, that's amazing. Like, his dad is like a generation above us, so he's lived through all those photos. He saw it in action, like just kind of like the people saw the LeBron one a couple of days ago. Like people lived through the Larry Bird Magic Johnson. For me, that's my favorite photo is the Larry Bird Magic Johnson one.
I love that one
because those are just like two legends, and I mean, I've just heard and listened to everything Magic Johnson ever has had to say, because for me, he's like a role model in terms of just business and as a human being.
Yeah.
So for me, that photo just of that rivalry, of that powerful rivalry, yet, off the field, they're like best of friends and just, they're always supporting one another. So when you take those photos, and I think this is something that you mentioned on your podcast, which is called Legends of Sport.
Legends of Sport, right?
Legends of Sport. So you were talking to Magic Johnson, and he said something, or you said something, I can't remember who said it, but it was about the fact that the reason that you took those shots, or the reason why those photos end up the way they do, is because you knew these folks off the field.
Mm-hmm.
You knew when Magic Johnson was going to do that no-look pass. You know, you knew when those special moments were going to happen. People don't see the preparation behind the actual art.
Yeah.
What does that preparation look like for you?
Well, the great Walter Yost, who's basically one of the godfathers of sports photography, says that luck is really due to preparation.
Yeah.
I know I'm paraphrasing Walter. Sorry, Walter. But I very much believe in that. I mean, for a typical 7:30 game, my team is at the arena at 2:00 in the afternoon. We're setting up 7 or 8 remote cameras. We're getting my stuff ready for the game ahead, and then I get there, a couple hours later, get all prepared, because nothing happens by accident. So, with Magic, for example, I mean, I got lucky a few times with those no-look passes, but I got burned a few times too, because he'd be coming down the court full steam ahead. He got Worthy on one side, Cooper on the other side. He makes about 15 moves before he gets to the basket.
You don't even know what he's doing.
You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But you learn the guy's games, just like I learned Magic. I learned Jordan's game. I learned Kobe's game as best I could. Shaq was a lot more predictable because everything happened like right around the rim.
Right there, not much movement.
But you wanted to get that dunk as ferocious as you could as a photographer. And one thing to keep in mind about the type of photography I do, especially with basketball and hockey, is that using this indoor strobe system, I can only shoot one photo every 4 seconds. So I can't lean on a motor drive that takes 10 or 12 frames a second and pick one out of there. I really can only shoot one photo. In my mind, I have to count to 4, and then I could shoot another photo. So everything happens so quickly, especially in basketball, hockey, any sport really, that in those 4 seconds, the ball could be down the other side of the court by then. Or, there could be a foul, it could go out of bounds, whatever it is.
I mean, Derek Fisher shot in what
0.4.
0.4.
Yeah.
So have there been moments where you missed it, and there's a big moment where you're just like, shit.
Absolutely. Yeah. If I miss a shot because I either get blocked, if it's something out of my control, if I get blocked, a referee's in the way, guy's arm is in his face, whatever, I just chalk it up. If it's something that I could have controlled in my own mind, like if the strobes don't work, which has happened, if God forbid I go out of focus, if I don't time it right, those are things that I kick myself about. There have been times, absolutely, there's 4 or 5 times I can probably think of that I just I had a sleepless night. Let me just put it to you that way.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but it happens.
It happens in everything that we do. Is like, there's always disappointment, especially when it's something that's in our own destiny.
Yeah.
Something that's in our own control. If we disappoint ourselves, nobody else really knows about those mistakes.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people know about mine because, a lot of
Andy,
people.
Did you capture that moment?
Yeah. Well, I've gotten that call, and I've had to say, you know what, I missed it, or strobes didn't fire, or all of the above. Referee got in the way, whatever.
But are you almost playing like predictor at times, or are you just are you in that moment?
Oh yeah, totally in the moment. I mean, the book is called Mamba Mentality for a reason.
Yeah, and that's a great segue into this book.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously Kobe's term that he came up with, but he and I are totally in tune about what Mamba Mentality means.
What is it?
Well, for me, it's being completely locked in and getting rid of all distractions around me. So as you know, it could be a regular season game, all-star game, or NBA Finals game. There's a lot going on around the periphery of what I'm doing. I'm sitting on the court. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of distraction. I have to tune all of that out. I have to be very locked in and focused on what I'm trying to do, what I'm there for. I have to have 100% confidence in myself that I know my equipment, so there's not fumbling around for a lens or figure out a shutter speed or an f-stop. It has to be a sixth sense, and Art Center actually helped me with that, really understand about everything technical, photography-wise, and then, of course, learning as an assistant and then doing it on my own. And then everything it took to get to that point is also the Mamba mentality. It's like a confidence, not arrogance, but it's a confidence in yourself that you're going to you're there for a reason.
Right.
That you sacrificed a lot, that you spent a lot of time doing your craft to get to a certain point, that you're put there for a reason. You know, it's not just random that I'm the guy, you know, sitting there in front of LeBron now, you know,
we see it.
But there's a reason why that is,
Right.
you know, and I pride myself in that. So from Kobe's standpoint, it's a much more I guess cerebral and deeper definition for Mamba mentality. But he, as we know, you know, he became the Mamba, the Black Mamba, and he took on that persona, which was deadly. I mean, he was deadly before, but the, you know, the veteran Kobe, when he became the Mamba, was basically unstoppable.
So the book is about your 20-plus career with Kobe.
Yeah.
And you're probably one of very few people who have been there for those moments with him, like all these moments throughout his
The
career.
good, the bad.
Yeah, like tell us kind of how your relationship with Kobe has just matured and what you guys are like together.
Well, I met Kobe. He was 18 years old. He just turned 18, and it was Media Day 1996. And like any new player, when he came on my set, I had to photograph him. I went to introduce myself, and I say, "Hey, Kobe, I'm Andy Bernstein, the Lakers team photographer." And he shook my hand. He said, "Oh, I know who you are." And you know, if you heard the story before,
I haven't heard the story
because I've told the story a couple of times. I love this story. So I said, "You know who I am?" I mean, we haven't ever met. And he goes, "Oh no, I know who you are because I had all your posters in my room growing up. You know, Jordan, Magic, Bird, Dominique, all the guys." And I'm thinking to myself, nobody, I mean, I don't even read the photo credit on the bottom of a poster. I'm sure you guys have never read a photo credit.
I've read it.
Yeah. But as you know, it is in like microscopic typeface, you know, I mean, point size. So here's a guy who has the presence of mind to study everything about a poster, including the photo credit, you know. So I knew that.
This is him at 18.
Yeah, this is 18
Also,
years
these
old.
things get repurposed so many times.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like they don't include it.
Right,
on the
but
poster,
I mean,
right?
you know, the fact that he knew who I was through poster credits is just unbelievable. So I just, you know, I saw a lot in him that I had seen in myself at his age. A lot of determination, drive, ambition, you know, wanting to get out there and prove himself, and a lot of self-confidence. And we just bonded right then and there, and I built a trust with him very early. He knew I was not there to take a bad picture of him or make him look bad in any way, shape, or form. I knew when to get in, when to get out. Be a true fly on the wall, and the book is a testament to that trust and that relationship over a 20-year period. It's a really unique relationship because
and it's an autobiography, right? It's from his perspective.
it's from his perspective, 100% his words and 100% of my photographs. But I will challenge you guys to think of another athlete, that's played in the same city for the same team for 20 years, who's been photographed by the same photographer for those 20 years.
Probably
I mean, he and I really sat down, and Kobe doesn't like to be challenged where he can't resolve the question. And we couldn't come up with, you know, Derek Jeter came to mind, but he didn't play 20 years for the Yankees, and there's probably a group of people who photographed him. So it was amazing.
Tom Brady, maybe, but he's probably been photographed by several different
people. But I can't pinpoint one person. You know,
it's really special.
So anyway, that being said, it was just the opportunity to partner and collaborate,
Right.
And the fact that he wanted to collaborate with me on this, I didn't have to sell him on it.
Right.
The original book idea actually was a big, splashy coffee table, you know, bigger book of, you know, huge pictures, and I proposed that to him and his team, and he was very patient and went through and looked through it, and he closed the proposal. He said, "Andy, these are great." He goes, "But," he says, "we're going to do a book together, but it's not going to be this book." And I said, "Why not?" He says, "Well, because, you know, that book might come later, but I want people to really understand what made me tick. I've never let anyone in, and if we're going to do a book together, it's going to be illustrated by your photos and my words." In the moment, he said that. And you don't even have to think about it. And you know, that's just the way he operates.
Andy, looking back when you first met him, in all honesty, did you think he is going to be great? I mean, like one of the greats? Because you had met at the time Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, all those guys. Was he up
Let's
there?
not be political here. I grew up in LA. Yeah. I grew up on Kobe. He's the greatest of all time.
Well, it's interesting because those guys you just mentioned all went to college.
Yeah.
They all came into the NBA later. A lot of them won at least 2 years.
And Magic had won a national championship before, right?
And I think Kobe was the first guy that I had met. Maybe, I knew Moses Malone, and he had come out of high school. I didn't really know Moses Malone. But he was the first guy I met and that was around that came directly out of high school. There was so much hype, as you probably know, of what an unbelievable high school player he was. So for him to come to the Lakers was very similar to Magic coming to the Lakers, although, of course, Magic had, those couple of years at Michigan State.
And Magic got drafted by the Lakers, no?
Yeah, and Magic got drafted by the Lakers, right. So Kobe, I think it was the 13th pick by Charlotte, was traded
for
by Jerry West for Vlade.
Great trade.
But
amazing trade.
But the answer to your question was yes, because you could see in this kid's eyes that, first of all, athletically, he was like ridiculous. And I saw that in practice. And he was like a caged animal in that first year. I mean, they didn't really play him that much.
Yeah.
Del Harris kind of held him back, and which was probably, in retrospect, a good idea. And then, of course, we got to the playoffs, and he didn't have a good playoffs against Utah. And any other guy might have kind of shattered their confidence at 18 years old. But he said he shot 1 million jumpers that summer, and he got his game together and came back, and he quickly became who he was.
What speaks volumes about him is like that few year stint in like the mid 2000s where like the Lakers were just terrible.
Yeah.
And he stuck around.
Yeah.
He could have left. But he stuck around, and they ended up winning, back to back. And
he's very loyal to the city, to the purple and gold. I think Kobe's a very forward thinking guy, so I think he saw that as sort of a downturn that could turn around.
Sure.
Which it did, of course. When Phil came in. Yeah. And then he and Shaq the same year started playing together, and lo and behold, they win 3 championships together.
Yeah. So the book is from his perspective, but from your perspective, I don't want not to spoil the book or anything, but is there anything that maybe kind of just everything that's been documented about Kobe that people know about him already?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot in the book that people don't know and they'll find out, but is there anything that you know about him and the type of person he is that you've seen behind the scenes that maybe people don't know?
Well, I knew how dedicated he was and how committed he was, but I didn't know how obsessed he was. I mean, the guy just took it up like notches that none of us imagined. I mean, this is a guy who was doing workouts during USA training camp in Las Vegas at 3:00 in the morning. Other guys are out partying or the casino or whatever they're doing. He's got a Pilates class, in his suite. A lot of his Laker teammates, never saw his private workout. I did, because he did it at Staples Center. He would do it in the Kings locker room, in the Kings training room, and he and his private trainers. And I would, go tag along a couple of times, and a lot of that's in the book. And he talks about his mental preparation, his process and craft. The book is broken into those two kind of dynamics of his game, how he took care of his body, how he mentally prepared, how he recovered from injury, how he stayed at the top of his game for 20 years, especially after such a devastating injury late in his career as a torn Achilles.
I was going to just mention that is probably my favorite photo of all time is him sitting just hand in face, just looking at the ground, and you can feel just all the emotions.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I mean, I actually wrote in the afterword of the book about how quiet Staples Center was in that moment. That like a fallen giant. He had just crumbled there, and then when he got up, went to the bench, and then walked across the court to shoot free throws. Yeah. I mean, it was a superhuman feat, honestly. And then, I was there to document his recovery for that. I was actually in the book, the photos that had never been seen before of him getting his stitches out in his Achilles. And there's a bunch of pictures in there that are never been seen before. So people will be very, I think they'll be very enthralled and very interested not only what Kobe had to say, but he actually writes directly on some of the photos. He will. It's like we gave him prints, and he would write on them with Sharpie. Actually, what's going on in the picture.
Wow.
So,
Like from his like mind.
yes.
Wow.
Like, you know, how Bruce Bowen is playing him, or double team. You know, how he would get out of a double team with Dennis Rodman and Michael Jordan, or what's he talking about? You know, we all saw him talking to Michael Jordan on the court.
Yeah.
We couldn't hear what he was saying.
Right.
Until this book, nobody
Does he
really
talk
knows
about
what
that-
they were talking
Does he
about.
talk about that conversation with Ron Artest when they were he was on the Rockets?
Right.
I always wondered what they were talking about.
Yeah, I don't know if he talks about that specifically, but he does talk about
Yeah.
how when Ron/Meta joined the Lakers, how he knew that was the right fit for for their team.
Yeah.
You know, he brought this toughness and this kind of New York kind of grit.
Yep.
And I love Meta. Meta was on my podcast, one of my best guests. I mean, the guy is just.
He's just someone you want on your team.
Yeah, and he's just yes, absolutely. Yeah, and you don't want to be on the other side of a fight with that guy either.
No.
That too. That too.
Yeah.
Andy, you mentioned something about Kobe that I think also applies to you, and that was the obsessiveness, you know, the focus. And obviously, if you weren't so obsessed with what you were doing, I don't think you would be doing it, and I don't think you would be doing it at this level.
Yeah.
You know, how much emotion goes into these photographs and these moments? I mean, because when I see these photos, I see like a fan. I see a fan taking these photos. It's not just a photographer that is not emotionally attached, you know?
Oh, that's an interesting one. Well, Kobe has a great quote that I like to use that if you're not obsessed with what you do, we don't speak the same language.
Yeah.
So he and I bonded that way. I mean, he saw how obsessed I was with my craft and what I do for a living, as well as it's very easy to see how obsessed he is. I try not to be a fan. It's hard. It's hard not to be a fan, but I have a job to do, and
Right.
if I'm a fan, the next logical step after that is that I'm then watching the game instead of recording the game. And if I'm doing that, I'm not doing my job. So I always say that if I see a moment happen through the camera, if I see it happen through the viewfinder, it means I didn't get it. Because if I had gotten it, the shutter would have clicked, right? So if I see it, it means I'm late, or I'm not focused, or I should be in another line of work, quite honestly, because there's a lot of guys sitting to my left and my right who probably got that picture.
Right.
Yeah.
Who should read this book?
Wow. That's one of the early things that we talked about, and he wants it to be, first of all, a teaching book. It's not X's and O's per se. It's not a manual of how to play basketball the Kobe way. But he wants coaches, parents, young players, gifted players who are trying to get to the next level, whether it's from high school to college to pros, G League, if they're trying to get from the G League to the NBA, boys, girls, doesn't matter. He wants all of those people to get something out of this book, like some nuggets from how he played. I mean, it's interesting that the subtitle of the book, Mamba Mentality, is How I Play.
Right.
It's not how I played, it's how I play. This is how he lives life.
And I'm assuming that was a very strategic decision to word it as
Yeah,
such.
yeah. I mean, that was totally him. And I questioned it. I said, "Well, you're not playing anymore, dude." No, he goes, "This is how I play." So,
Right, because it's not, but because and that's early on. That's why I wanted, and that's why I want eventually, hopefully, to sit down with him as well, because he took what he did in basketball, elevated it to a whole other level.
Yes.
And now applies that to everything he's doing. And now, I mean, he's doing he does
Sure.
the podcast, he does the production stuff. He's an investor.
I won an Academy Award.
He won an Academy Award.
Yeah.
So I think, and the reason I asked was because I see it, at work. I see it with my friends. There is a lack of focus. There is a lack of obsession. But I think a lot of it also comes with experience, with being a veteran. And it's a little bit more difficult when you're starting up and, you're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, he was obsessed back as a rookie and early in his career as he was at the end. It just matured.
Right.
he was a dunk machine those early, 10 years, and then his outside shot developed, and then his legs weren't as spry as they used to be, and he didn't dunk as much, and then of course he had the Achilles injury, and he went from being a rookie and one of the youngest guys on the team to being a leader, and then he became a veteran, and then he became a mentor. So his career really evolved, as he evolved as a person as well.
For sure. And Andy, I know we could sit here all day and talk, but you have to head to the Lakers game to actually.
Yeah, there's a game tonight. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, he sounds so excited.
No, I am.
To see the Lakers winning.
I'm a little bit jacked up as we record this.
Right. It's the first Lakers home game of the season.
Well, it's the first Lakers home game, which is enough pressure, but it's LeBron's first home game, and it's on some weirdness of scheduling. Has the Lakers playing the back end of a doubleheader at Staples Center. So as we're talking right now, I know this is going to air later, but they're playing a hockey game at Staples Center. I'm going to get there during the changeover.
Yeah.
Okay.
And all the normal routine is completely disrupted on a doubleheader day. So
what's your prediction of the Lakers this season?
I'm encouraged. I thought they played pretty well in the preseason.
They looked really good together.
I think so. I think the guys are. The last thing we want is those guys to defer to LeBron. Like, that was the whole knock on the Kobe era, is that the young guys just stood around and watched Kobe play.
They were dependent on him.
Yeah,
which was LeBron last year.
Yeah, and LeBron is going to need the ball in his hands. They'll figure that out. He's incredibly generous. I think a little overly generous right now with trying to get all the other guys involved. They got some great players on this team.
Kuzma and
Josh
Hart stepping up.
Look how good Lonzo looks. Even with that tweak of the knee that he's trying to get over.
Yeah. I'm so excited to see Josh Hart step it up.
Yeah,
the way
Josh Hart. I mean, JaVale McGee. I mean, I don't know. This guy
we're
was
gonna win the championship this year. I don't care who disagrees with me.
You know what?
You heard it here.
I'll take it.
It's the Mamba mentality. You got to stay focused, stay positive.
But they are definitely going to be an exciting team to watch. A lot of fun. I mean, the LeBron show is in full force. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Bulls era, which was kind of like a traveling rock show. And it's the same thing with LeBron.
Well, it's going to be exciting for you, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I'm thankful. I'm up to the task of being the guy, right in front of LeBron, and
we can't wait to see just all the pictures and the photos and the memories that you're going to create on a daily. I mean, right after we agreed to do this, I saw the LeBron photo of just him dunking.
Well, how ridiculous! Like, his first official points as a Laker is a breakaway dunk.
Amazing!
It was unbelievable.
Right in my face.
The way, just storybook. It had to be that way.
Yeah. It was
well, Andy,
crazy.
this has been amazing. Congrats on all the success throughout your career
Thank you, guys.
and on the book, and excited to see where it goes. Obviously, it's going to do well. So
thank you, fellas. Appreciate it.
This has been awesome.
Yeah, it's been great, and I appreciate you guys taking the time today to come out.
Likewise.